For the past 2 years, it's been the year of accessible tourism in Queensland. In 8 years' time, it'll be the 2032 Olympics and Paralympics. This morning, the Premier encouraged us to be future-focused. At Cérge, we are focused on making the 2032 Games the most inclusive and accessible games in history. And we're going to do that through using advanced technology. Cérge works across a number of different industries, whether that's tourism, sport, health, recreation, retail, and across all of those industries we find 3 common barriers to participation for people with disability, and the first one is a lack of publicly available information to know before you go. With increasing disability comes an increasing requirement to understand a venue's accessible features so that you are confident to participate. The next barrier, customer service. When I arrive at your venue or your business, will I be treated with empathy and compassion, or will I experience some form of customer service bias which has plagued my life? The final journey in access and inclusion is capital, which is ramps, rails, bathrooms, etc. Society has been conditioned to believe that solving for access and inclusion begins and ends at point number 3, because the universal symbol for disability is a person in a wheelchair. One of the reasons why organisations, councils, governments have a fear to get started is they believe that it begins and ends at point number 3. Cérge has a focus to ensure social impact for the 95.6% of people with disability who do not use a wheelchair as well. So maximising social impact in the most cost-effective way, starting at point number 1 and moving logically through the sequence of your journey. So how do we do that? For every venue that adopts Cérge, we create for you, yes, we visit every single venue and we will create a virtual tour, a visual story, a sensory guide, an audio guide, an access guide, keyword signboard, a communication board. So irrespective of disability, your customer will understand the accessible features of your venue if it does or does not work for them ahead of time. But I said we're a technology business, we're not just creating content. So we've got a content management platform so that we can host and list all of those features of your business, of your venue on a web listing service. It can also be listed inside the app. But one thing we know undeniably is that your community with disability and your marketing team want all of that information on your website and not just on ours or a third-party website. That's what inclusion is going to be, to make sure all the content is, when they're looking at your property, your website, all the accessible features are listed there. So we're going to run out of time, and I want to keep to the 8 minutes so we can get out. So going past theory to a practical example. So let's imagine I'm just going to jump on a train. When I'm looking at the AirTrains website, I'm going to the domestic terminal. I want to understand all the information. I want to understand the tickets, the timetable. I also want to ensure that all the information about the domestic station is on that website. So the virtual tour, visual story, sensory guide, all the tools that we create, branded to look like AirTrain, embedded through our white label solution so that your customers, your passengers, your tourists know to find it on your property and not having to come across to ours. Looking at a couple of the tools. So, for example, the virtual tour, absolute gold standard to try and communicate to as many disability categories as possible. Whether it's blind, low vision, from a wayfinding perspective to understand where the tactile tiles are, whether it's sensory or neurodiverse to understand the overarching, environment that you're in, or whether it's mobility to use the hyper-accurate measuring tool to understand, in this instance, the width of the escalator, but steps into bathrooms, the height of counters, the distance between tables and chairs, to give an individual the choice and control and independence to make their own decision. Having a look, so just one more tool to look at is the visual story sensory guide. Imagine a mental construct or scaffolding to understand the sensory experience, what you're going to experience when you visit your venue. So the Sky Bridge is different to when you're standing in line versus when you're on the train. So having a description of each of those sensory areas, having a series of images from a wayfinding perspective, and what does it look like, sound like, and feel like, because each of those areas is different. Let's look at Cérge in a completely different angle, because this always comes up, which is a commercial return on investment. So One of the different things that's, I guess, everyone will be familiar with is, on one end, from a compliance perspective, you've got a building, it's got to be built to code. On the other end of the spectrum, you're going to have, if you've got a website, web content accessibility guidelines. Coming to Australia, which is already present in America, the American Disability Act, if you have a physical property, it's a compliance piece that you have to promote your accessible features so your customers can make their own decision. The aviation white paper that got released in Australia about 12 weeks ago is an indication that that same compliance piece is on its way here too. We believe, from a compliance piece for what we do, we are the industry-leading standard with all those tools and continuously innovation. That's what we do. Compliance isn't here yet in Australia, so a lot of enterprise government councils which do adopt our platform are seeing this as a brand differentiation to their competitors, not just because it's the right thing to do, but from whether it's sustainability, but also inclusion, to demonstrate that you're good for people and planet is a competitive advantage. Our virtual tours, they're notoriously great for asset management, getting efficiencies, but surely the holy grail of what we're after is is engagement and participation, and for people with disability. So I'm just going to look at my live tracker and my ticker, so when it comes to our virtual tours. So since we've started doing the virtual tours specifically to improve participation with people with disability, we've had 1,749,110 views on the virtual tours of our clients so that people can make their own informed decision to know before they go. From a customer or a client perspective, Cérge is 5 years old. The first 4 years was pretty tough. It took 4 years to get 100 venues to adopt our platform. The next 9 months got a little bit better, where we got to 200 venues. And in the last 50 days, we've had 96 different venues adopt our platform because they're on the journey, just like us, future focused to improve access and inclusion for all people. Across all those various clients, what we've demonstrated, if you promote to know before you go when your customers, clients, guests arrive at your venue, and you can ensure a warm welcome, that you too are going to change lives. We all know that this is part of the digital adaptation program, but just for a little bit of crowd engagement, because I've got 47 seconds, can I have a show of hands? Who's excited for Christmas? Come on, help me out, people. Hey, everyone's in. It's a good show of hands. So you may not know, between now and Christmas is 25 business days, starting tomorrow. The team at Cérge, we've just done 96 in 50 days. We've got capacity to support 50 venues over the next 25 business days. So if as a Christmas present, you would like QTIC and the Queensland Government to pay to have all of our tools, virtual tours, visual tours, sensory guides, on your website so you can promote your inclusive and accessible features and become on this future-focused journey that the Premier was encouraging us to do, please scan that QR code. Please register with the Digital Adaptation Program, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.